Welcome to Real Estate 360 with Real Estate Expert Kenn Renner. Ken, we are certainly living in some interesting times right now, unprecedented with the coronavirus, the amazing things that are happening in the market. But we're here to focus on some of the good stuff.
Yeah, well, it was
the
just
silver lining.
The silver lining. It was just 2 weeks ago. We were sitting in the same office here, which is actually an essential service because you are a radio broadcaster.
That's right.
So we can do this, and we are 6 feet apart. No. But we were talking about that was just the day that they canceled South by Southwest, just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
And that was before. Now all of a sudden the whole world's changed. But the whole thing about it is that the silver lining is what I want to focus on because there's so much negative news out there everywhere you go. No matter what you turn on, TV, your phone, everything is just negative news. But I'm an optimist, always have been an optimist. And my wife says, I'm glad I'm married to an optimist. And the reason is because optimists live longer.
Yeah.
It's proven. But I want to talk a little bit about the being on the optimistic side and the silver lining of things that we can focus on. Because what you focus on expands. It does. And you've known this, and if you keep focusing on the negative media, it's going to send you into a tizzy, and you might. I've seen a lot of moping people moping around here, but I like to look. I've got faith in the America. I got faith in and believe in the American financial system. I've got I got faith and believe in even the monetary, even on our money. It says, "In God we trust." Not to get religious about it, but I mean we can either live in fear or we can live in faith, and so every piece of currency that we have says, "In God we trust."
Yeah, there's one thing. There's an old saying: you're better stop living in the problem and start living in the solution.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to talk about today because it's really this is a time where we get to have a little bit of a timeout. We're on the shelter, all our kids are at home and everything like this, and it's been actually a blessing because we've been able to, get to know our I've got a 9-year-old and I've got a 20-year-old, and the 20-year-old was supposed to do South by Southwest. She had a showcase and everything, and you know where she's at right now? She's in the studio recording. That girl does not stop. Yeah, and it's inspiring to me. It inspires me. She's teaching. She's a music teacher too. She's doing remote teaching from her room with her iPhone. And it really it's inspiring because it gives the kids that she's teaching a little bit of that security, a little bit of that continuity, normalcy. And
people are starting to engage in technology that's been out for a while.
Right.
Zoom has been around. I saw an article the other day, the $1 billion company you've never heard of until coronavirus. I've been using Zoom for years.
I know. I love Zoom.
Yeah, so. I do too. And now it's really, people are embracing it now, which is good.
Yeah. So, it's a good time for a timeout to get to know the kids. It's a good time to reevaluate your goals. When we're so busy, you and I are always so busy, running and gunning, as we call it here in Texas, running and gunning. and it's time to sit down and take a time out and reevaluate and look at your goals. I wrote a book on goals. In fact, if you want a free copy of my book, Power Goals, I'd be glad to send it to you. Just email me or text me. Look at we've just had a financial advisor in here doing a podcast. Look at your paperwork. I mean, is all your stuff in order?
Yeah.
Your wills, you got enough life insurance. You've got how the mortgages. We'll talk a little bit about the interest rates here in a second. Look at your stocks. I mean, don't stare at the fact that they just dove, 20%. But also time to reconsider. Maybe I shouldn't have had so much money in stocks. Maybe I should have had more hard assets.
I seem to remember someone recently saying that you might want to get some money out of the stock market. I think it was you.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about crazy markets. I was doing a presentation in Southern California, and you're going to put some of those slides up that we talked about. Was I put on the Dow Jones Industrial Average and how it does definitely have some adjustments along the way here, and that don't have all your eggs in one basket, and transferring some of those assets into real hard assets like real estate and other commodities and things like that. And I remind my clients that went to that presentation because they're kind of whining because oh well, part of my down payment was coming from one of my stocks and it's already tanked. And I'm saying, don't you remember I said something about that a month ago?
Right.
But what I like about Austin, Texas real estate is this is going back to the early 90s when I first moved here. And you can see this chart actually shows, this is from Texas A&M University, is that even during the apocalypse of 2008 and the dot-com bust, our values, our median price values, just pretty much just bounced along. It's been a very nice upward trend as opposed to the heart monitor that we have with the Dow Jones. So I've used this presentation and these charts multiple times. It gets people to open up their eyes to the market. Same thing with the crazy market in real estate out in the Bay Area. This is another chart that I have here. Sandy, this little 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-car garage sold for $1.45 million. Actually, that was my client that sold it.
That looks like the house I grew up in Merced, California.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, I was born in San Mateo, which is in the same town.
Yeah.
This is, and that the house that I was born in was worth $1.61 million right now.
Wow.
My dad paid $17K for it.
That's about what my dad paid, like $20,000 in 1972.
1963. Yeah. But this is what you get in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
But this guy didn't buy this house. He sold this, and this is what I turned it into is these 9 houses. 9 brand new single family houses, and this is still going on today. Our values have not dropped, and yes, there's probably going to be some ramifications due to the fact that people have lost their jobs, and God bless them. But the bottom line is this is going to be a temporary thing, as it always was. 2008 was a temporary, 9/11 was temporary. It's a temporary setback, and like we were talking about before the show, we also think when they take a deep dive that some of the powers that be that run that own these huge portfolios in the stock market are going to totally benefit.
Yeah.
It's like a bargain. So my suggestion is like, don't panic, don't be selling your stocks, don't be running out and hoarding toilet paper, So the bottom line is, the silver lining is we get to know our kids, get to hang out, do some things that we would, of course, take walks down the trail in the park. My 9-year-old's learning how to play music.
You know what I'm doing?
Instrument.
I'm taking Spanish lessons.
I was going to exactly say that. How do you do that? What was the app?
It's an app, and you just download it, and it's simple Spanish lessons, and it's kind of cool because you can say what time is best for you to take your lesson, and you pick a time and number of days, and my class is at 6:00 every morning.
On my bucket list was to learn how to speak Spanish.
Yeah, do it. It's really cool.
I mean, that's
Babbel.
Awesome. Babbel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So there you go. And once again, it was going back to.
I think it was Babbel.
Where
it might be something else. You keep talking.
Well,
I'll let you know.
shoot me that.
I will.
You got it. You got my text.
Yep.
So, but also one thing that we're doing is planning a new business. I mean, our business is, while everything else is kind of shaking down, our business is, for many, many years, my clients have asked me to start, would I manage their portfolio of real estate,
sure,
their properties, because they want me to do it. And we manage our own portfolio of properties, but we've been just so busy selling and acquiring, helping people acquire properties, that we just didn't have the bandwidth to set that up. So now that we have a little bit of a lull in activity, this is great for us to do all the planning, get all the software, get all the right people, the team, and everything in place. So that's one of the things that that we've been putting off for a long time, and then that we're jumping back into. One thing we also, when we're talking about real estate, is look at your interest rates right now. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They have tanked at 3.25% or thereabouts for an owner-occupied house. They bumped up during this, during the latest stock market frenzy, but now they're right back down to 3.5%, 3.25%, and so maybe it's time to refinance.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe pull some cash out and pay off some consumer debt. It's definitely, if you want to talk about interest, I used to own a mortgage company for many years, so I can talk interest rates and mortgages and when it makes sense to do it and when it doesn't. Nice thing about real estate, we talk about the 3 basic needs that you have is food, shelter, and shelter and clothing, right? Okay, well,
I can think of one more.
You got to have. Well, what is it?
Family show here.
Yeah. Well, shelter. To store your food and your clothing, you got to have shelter. So you got to live somewhere. And so even though we're on this lockdown, which is actually good for real estate because you got to live somewhere. Most of the people working from home, so you got a home to work from. Mm-hmm. Is that the shutdown is actually shut down in Travis County, all the building.
Yeah, what is that? What effect is that going to have long term?
Well, we're in a housing shortage.
Yeah.
So people are going to have to live somewhere, and they keep moving here, especially from the higher priced places in the nation. They're looking for more affordable living, regardless. Even now, they're like, okay, how do we consolidate? And those that own real estate, our landlords, our investors are going to be able to provide housing for them. So, fortunately, most of ours are in Williamson County or Bell County, which is not they're not shut down, but Travis is,
Right.
and that's gonna put pressure on the housing market of an already low inventory of, like we talked about. It's
Therefore, driving up prices.
driving up prices and also lowering vacancies.
Yeah.
Which is the number one thing our clients are looking for. Well, I don't want an empty house. That's the first thing they say is, how long is it going to be vacant? And so right now we last week in the 3 counties here, they had 665 homes leased in 1 week.
Wow.
So we're not slowing down at all. As far as that's concerned, you got to live somewhere. And also found out in Williamson County too, where I live, real estate is considered an essential business, like radio, like medical and things like that. And so we're able to go ahead and continue showing properties and doing our open houses. And a lot of our houses are brand new vacant properties, which is also good because we can do what's called a ghost listing, where our open house, I call it ghost open house, or people can self-guide tour. So we don't even have to get in the car and drive over there. We say, go to the house. I've got a process of letting you into the house, and then they lock it up and they leave. So they can actually look at properties, and you can't do that with an occupied house. We're always looking at our home prices are below the median price. And as I showed that chart that you'll put on the screen, that the median price always does well in Austin for the last 40 years.
Right.
It's not gonna. It's a safe asset to park some of your money, and it grows over time. And guess what? Somebody else pays off the mortgage for you.
That's the best part.
Yeah, somebody else pays off the debt.
Yeah.
Over time. It's awesome. And also looking at our submarkets. Now, some of the markets that we are investing in, a large chunk of our investors are investing in markets that are not based on high tech and government like our city here. It's close by to Austin, but this submarkets are based off of medical weresearch, distribution. Those businesses are thriving right now, and military. And that's obviously not going to go away. So we're actually, those areas are benefiting from this crisis, and not saying that it's using the word benefiting, but we need those services. You need the largest hospital and the VA hospital. These are going to be required services, and so the people who are servicing that got to live somewhere.
Right.
So
it's funny. Did you see the article about the guy that founded Dyson? Dyson vacuums, hair dryers.
Yeah.
He's a multi-billionaire, and he and his company developed a ventilator in 10 days.
Nice.
Yeah,
See,
and they can scale it, they can build it, and so what I'm saying is necessity is the
Innovation.
mother of invention.
Innovation,
Right.
And then Dyson just switch it from a vacuum cleaner.
I guess so. Smart people.
I was driving down Mopac, and I was looking at Abbott Labs, which has been there forever. Parking lot's full.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah, because they do the they medical.
This country's full of good people. Dyson's an English guy, but the world is full of good, smart people that will start focusing on something else temporarily to help the greater good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the faith we have in American resiliency, and this too shall pass, and that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at it being the optimist, and the silver lining is, wow, I've finally been able to sit down and do a business plan for my property management company, because you know what? My clients want the security of knowing I'm going to steward their properties,
right,
and as opposed to just handing it off to somebody who may or may not do a great job.
Right.
And so that brings me a lot of joy, and a little more stress for my wife, because she's like going, I'm not ready. But we've been waiting for this for a long time.
Kenn Renner, optimist.
And Sandy, we just talked about that. We were talking about how people live in fear, and you're like going, I used to be like that.
Yeah,
it's not a good way to live.
Living in fear is not a good way to live. And it's really, you really over-exaggerate your fear. What you're afraid of is not as bad as it really is.
Oh, remember, 9/11 or even the 2008 apocalypse of the financial industry. I mean, the news was just
Don't watch it. I think everyone should limit themselves right now to 30 minutes of news a day. You can watch the nightly news, which, by the way, the nightly news numbers, the ratings are off the charts. I mean, that's been beaten down over the years.
Right.
But people are tuning in at 5:30 to the network news. Lester, Holt,
I
Nora,
think if you just
all
get
of
your
them.
required information,
Yeah.
but not like focus on it. And then, I mean, anytime some kind of new thing comes up, we reach for our phone. Really?
Yeah,
it's
don't do that.
No, don't do
Don't
it.
do that.
Don't do it. Focus on your future. Focus on your family.
Yeah.
Focus on your faith.
Good stuff, Ken.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sandy.
I think everything you just shared with everyone, take it to heart. Do those things. Things are going to be all right.
All right. Kenn Renner, 512-423-5626. Text me. Give me a call. I'm here to encourage.